West Ham United is an anagram of the new stadium, which I listened to, utterly brilliant. West Ham United is an anagram of the new stadium. Figure it out. It's almost as good as Britney Spears and Presbyterian. But yeah, no, I mean, where does there are two things sort of I think that are important in what I'm sort of hearing, apart from all the things that you've been saying here. That brands are about, well, as you know, Dan, because this is my personal shtick, I think brands have a great deal to do with fame. And it's a word that actually has traditionally not been used that much. But then, you know, you can then dig into what you mean by fame. And, you know, there are obviously things here that exemplify what is famous and what is not famous. Sears Tower is famous, Willis Tower is not famous. You know, I still call that thing in the middle of, near Great Portland Street, the Post Office Tower. I don't know what it's called now or what it does, but it's still the Post Office Tower. And I was also wondering, you know, I can see why BT are trying to advertise, but frankly, I'm not sure anybody seeing those current ads is going to know any more about BT than they did before, because they just don't say anything. And I mean, to create fame, you have to actually be interesting, you have to be entertaining. I think one of the compelling cases that you write up in one of your books is obviously, which makes a great story, you could have written a great deal more about it if you wanted to, is Red Bull. And I think my other point is, what is quite interesting about Red Bull that I think we might tend to forget, is that I think as of next year, Red Bull as a brand will be 40 years old, which is not trivial. And I think there's been a lot of talk about short-term and long-term here, but you know, it's one thing to sort of create some kind of impact over a year or two, but to keep a brand in a dominant position over 40 years or more is a whole different thing, you know, and you could think of brands that have done that and brands that haven't done that. Many brands haven't done it, many brands have done it. And I think the only way that you succeed in doing it is you have to keep evolving, you have to keep moving forward, you have to keep being interesting. So Red Bull has gone on being more and more outrageous over the years. And I suppose the other thing about Red Bull while we're at it, which I'm not sure you have put enough emphasis on, but you know, it's not criticism because you can't put everything in your one-page summary. But I think it's impossible to imagine Red Bull becoming what it did without the figure of Dietrich Mateschitz, the founder, who is just one of these extraordinary forces of nature who just would do things that nobody else would do, you know, and it largely reflects his own passions for good or ill. You know, you may not like all of them because, you know, he's obviously very unconstructed boys' toys, you know, cars, planes, women, and you know, one of the things that he bought somewhere along the way was an Austrian television channel that ran very right-wing material, the sort of typical Austrian. So you love it or hate it, but that's the fuel that sort of drove that over a long period of time. It'd be interesting to see how it goes now that he's dead, and now that actually, as I understand it from conversations I've had, the energy drink market is in danger of moving away from them. And you know, their future strategy, is it about do we stay with the energy drink, or are we actually going to sod the energy drink? Let's just concentrate on the racing cars and the space rockets or whatever it's going to be. Anyway, that's enough. It's not really a question,
it's not
but
a
it's a
question.
Yes,
what's the secret to brand longevity?
Brand longevity. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because if you ask ChatGPT about Red Bull, they'll say, oh, it makes as much money from its media entertainment side as it does from its drinks. It's not true. If you look in the look at their annual report, it's less than 10%. So yes, it would be a big pivot, but maybe they can make it.